So if you had said this to me about 15 years ago that Mona, you're going to meditate, I'm going to be like, you kidding me? I'm a masculine person. You can put me down on the floor, like sit for 5 minutes. There's no way this is happening. But 15 years ago, I literally lost everything in my life. I was literally $5 in my pocket, didn't know what I was going to do. And I don't know what happened, something happened that it almost like someone whispered in my ear, meditate. So next morning I got up and I was like, I'm going to sit down and meditate, close your eyes and that's it. But I think where the most people have a struggle, they've been two things is either they have heard that you have to breathe certain way and two, no thoughts. So I think that's where they're like, man, I'm getting so many thoughts. I must be doing something wrong. So when I do guided meditation, I tell them plain out in the beginning, when you're going to meditate, I'm going to do the guided meditation. Remember, the thoughts are going to come. Let them come. Let them go and bring it back. But let them come and make a mental note. The reason you're making mental note is because it's like really the universe, and the universe is waiting for you to meditate. Honestly, the universe is waiting because it wants to work through you. But before that, the cleaning has to happen. So when you start meditating, even for 5 minutes and the thoughts are coming, I encourage you to let those thoughts come because you'll be surprised. Some of the thoughts will connect you for things that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 4 days ago, 5 days ago. But the universe is saying, you need to take care of this. You need to take care of this. You need to take care of this. And slowly, as you start taking and cleaning those things, that's where you're going to see the silence starts to come. And the minute the silence comes, then you're in a totally different kind of an addiction. Then you look forward to your quiet time.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to hop on here quickly before the episode begins and share a promotion that I'm running for the rest of April and all of May that may interest those of you who like to set goals, who are working on yourself, who are entrepreneurs, and want something more, better, different when it comes to your personal and professional life. And I'm offering a 2-hour coaching package for those of you who may feel a little bit stuck or you're looking for some clarity around what you actually want, what goals you want to set. So if you want some support in what is your vision, what are your values, and how do you align those two things to set goals that internally inspire you? So when you get up in the morning, you're excited, right, about getting into action towards the things that you say that you want. So if that resonates with you, this package would be a fit. And then also possibly you're in momentum, you're creating results, and you want to go to the next level, yet you're in a little bit of confusion. You're not quite fulfilled with where you're at, and you don't know what to do or how to do it to elevate your results to the next level of whatever your desired success is in all areas of your life, right? Your physical health, your business, your relationships, your wealth, giving back, all of those things. So if that resonates with you as well, this package would be a fit. And so if this interests you, just go into the show notes and you'll see a link to my website and click on there and you'll see the promotion. It's a 2-hour coaching package and I'm offering $100 off for the rest of April and all of May. So $100 off. I would love to talk to those of you who would like that support and guide you and support you in getting your goals. And so take advantage of that. Look forward to connecting with those of you that do. And just once again, thanks so much for being here. I hope you're getting value. Thanks for listening. And let's get back and dive into this episode. Excited for you to hear what's coming up. Have a great day. Welcome, fellow entrepreneurs and goal-getters, to Entrepreneurial Elevation, Unleashing Greatness Within, with myself, your host, Kelley Beveridge, and my phenomenal guest, Mona Arora from Vancouver. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm excited to have our guest on today. It's a friend that I met quite a few years ago through personal development, and we haven't connected in many years and recently have. And so she's always inspired me. She's a ball full of energy. She's always like the Energizer Bunny, rocking and rolling, doing wonderful things. And my experience of her is she really wants to make a difference in people's lives, including that of her own. And she is a mompreneur. She's a realtor for the past 18 years. She's a motivational speaker. She started something which we'll talk about. She's the founder of Strata Queens and Women of Vancouver. She's an author, and her book is called MonaVated, which is such a cool spin on her name. And it's really about how to own your own motivation from within. And so I'm excited to learn from Mona today and just pick her brain around entrepreneurship, success, owning and loving who we are, and how to be in constant motivation towards getting the things that we desire. And so the first question I want to ask you, Mona, is for you to obviously come on and say hello. And then I want to ask you and dive in because you have a series where it's really about talking to ordinary people and pulling forth the extraordinary stories. And so my question for you is, what actually makes someone who quote unquote is ordinary extraordinary?
Thank you, first of all, having me on this show. It really means a lot. And I think I'm already getting a teary eye because when you read stuff about me before I answer that question, I think that's exactly what ordinary to extraordinary is. That when you was reading about me, I have forgotten again because I'm living my day to day life, making my ends meet. My son is in university. So it's an ordinary life for me. I'm like, I'm just living an ordinary life, but not realizing that in that ordinary life, this was extraordinary. So I think that's where we have to come to the acceptance of that you may think what you're doing every day is ordinary, but at the same time, you're making it an extraordinary by giving yourself that credit. Because I forget that sometimes. I really do forget. And it's nice to hear that. I was like, even now this morning, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. No matter how much work we do, it's again coming back to is what am I not doing more of? And not pausing for a second and wait a second. In those ordinary moments, I did create this extraordinary. So I think what makes ordinary to extraordinary is our own acceptance that what I have done was already enough. What I have done did had a meaning. What I have done did matter. And that was my extraordinary.
Wow, I love that because I feel like everybody is extraordinary in our own right, in our own way, right now, not when we accomplish the thing or do the thing and I think a lot of times, myself included, we can underappreciate who we are because we don't feel like we have done enough. And that's why I wanted to ask you that question. And your answer actually wasn't what I was expecting, yet I love it. And for you to say to credit ourselves for what we have done and how far we have come, because everybody has an extraordinary story.
Yeah. And that's what was my Vancouver of Women was all about. I remember how that even came about was I remember I used to have a nanny many, many years back when my son was little. And I one day she came to work and she's almost in tears and crying and feeling low. And I said, "What happened, Annie?" And she said, "It's my daughter's birthday today. It's her sixth birthday." And she was in Philippines. The daughter was in Philippines and she was working as a nanny with me. And she said, "She's crying. My daughter's crying that I'm not there with for her birthday." And jokingly said to her, jokingly at that moment, little did I know that I would ever do something like that. I said, "Annie, it is not easy. And hats off to you because I can't even imagine living without my son." So I said, hats off to you. But I'll tell you what, if I ever do a TV show, because I always wanted to do something like that. And I said, if I ever do a TV show, I promise you that you would be my first guest and I would share your ordinary thing, what you think is ordinary as a mother leaving, because many people think that, oh, so what big deal? We leave our daughters behind too, or we leave our kids behind too. So in your mind, you're thinking that's ordinary, but for some mothers, that could be extraordinary. So I said to her in a joking way, I said, if I ever do a TV show, I promise you will be my guest and you'll be my first guest sharing your ordinary story, which has an extraordinary moment in it because it's not easy to leave your daughter behind, which is like a 6-year old. And hold behold, 15 years later, I was actually doing the series. I was like, I want to do Women of Vancouver. And the first person that received, we kept in touch. The first person that received my phone call was Annie and said, Annie, are you ready? I'm keeping my promise here. And she said, what are you doing? I said, this is what I'm doing. And I want you to, and her life has moved on. She's manager at Starbucks, doing really great things. But I want to take back to the time when she was Annie. So she came on my show and we talked and we really talked about that, how in an ordinary life, she was making that extraordinary life.
Wow, I love it. I love it. And how many people have a story that could be similar, right? And I even just, as you were speaking, what made me think was COVID and how it caused so many people to have feelings of depression and be really down. Yet I think something extraordinary is people who are feeling that way, even just getting up every day and putting one step in front of each other and moving through it. Like that's extraordinary, right? So it also, as you're sharing, what I'm getting from you for people who are listening is look for also not about being extraordinary, look for the extraordinary moments in your day, right? Because they are everywhere. Like the fact that maybe you didn't want to get out of bed and you did when you're feeling down and low, that's extraordinary. And we can build on that and build on.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm going to bring that together with my motivated now is as much as I'm all about looking for your extraordinary moments and ordinary moment, I'm going to be blunt about another thing. And that is no one is coming to rescue you.
Yeah.
No one is coming to rescue you. People can support you. People can support you. The friends can support you. The family can support you. But end of the day, it's a journey within. We have heard it many times, but it's also, and that's how the motivated came around. When I was going through my lowest moments, one thing I knew that I could reach for support. People can come and support me. But end of the day, there's a fine line where we say that people empower and inspire. Absolutely. And when they say people motivate, I have a different feelings around it. I feel nobody can motivate you but you. So that's where I was finding my own motivated moments every time when I was like, oh my God, I need to do this. I need to do this. Is I had to find my inner motivation. I can get inspired and empowered, but I still have to get out of the bed. And that's my motivation. And that's how motivated came. And that's what I tell people is I'm sorry, but nobody's going to come to rescue you. You have to rescue yourself, which means you have to motivate. I can inspire and empower. Get out of the bed, get out of the bed. Motivation has to come from you to get out of the bed. So I
Yeah.
think that's the other thing we need to put together is that extraordinary also has to come with the motivating. What's your why? Your why is going to get you out of the bed. Your why is going to motivate you. Your why is going to be like, I need this. I want this. I want to create this. I want to be this.
I love that. And so, speaking of this, because my audience is mostly entrepreneurs, people who are in personal development, goal oriented people. And I feel sometimes when people are first starting out in their entrepreneurship, or if they want to go to the next level, we do feel like, who am I to become that sometimes? And, or we can go through periods where we're stuck, or it is dark times, or there just seems to be more adversity happening in our life than flow. And so, speaking of inner motivation and just looking for the extraordinary, Mona, what advice would you give someone to call forth that inner motivation? And what are three or four things somebody could do who's feeling in that space and they want to elevate? What's some guidance you can give somebody?
I don't know if I would say that I would have two or three because I think in all of this, in the life of journey, I would say you only need one, in my personal opinion. And
Mhm.
that is you have to have a very, very, very clear why. And for me, my why is so big. As they say that when your why is clear, the path will appear or the way will appear. So for me, that's one thing. It's like my why is everywhere. So I'm about vision boards. But here's the thing, though, I can talk about vision board. I can talk about affirmations. I can talk about self-care, self-love. I can talk all of that. And that is part of it if you were to ask me two, three things. But they're all going to tie down to same thing. Why?
Mhm.
Why the self-care is important, why the money is important, why your business is important. It is going to come back to the why. And for me, if you were to ask my why, one of the biggest why is my son. I missed out having a relationship that I wanted with my mother because I lost her at a very young age. And I remember when I was getting into the business, I come from a corporate background where I was a store manager with the really good big corporations. But I remember when my son was only 1 month old, I promised myself that no matter what I'm doing in the world, when my son turns 5, I want to be there at the school to pick him up because I missed out on that. My mother never came to pick me up because she was an arthritis patient. So she was bedridden for 12 years. So I think it got stuck to my head that what is it like to be there for your like your for your child for your child to like getting picked up your child and whatnot. So I promised myself that when he was only 1 month old, one day actually 1 month old, and when he turned 5, I had no clue what I was going to do. But I remember going to my district manager and said, "Here's my notice." He said, "You want more money? Do you want better scheduling? Whatever you want, we'll give it to you." I said, "No, this is something I promised to my son that I would do." And hold behold, he started his full time schooling at 5. I went into business with no business knowledge. And there I was picking him up for school, never missed a game, never missed a school, never, like I made sure I was there for him because that was my why. I went through a rough patch. I've gone through divorce. I've gone through $5 in my pocket, even after picking up my life. But my why never changed. My why was always my son. My why was always, what legacy am I leaving behind? Why am I doing this? And so I would say that if anything, bring it back to your why.
It's like an anchor. It will always be like that lighthouse that can keep you moving
Yeah.
in towards the light in the right direction. And how do people know what their why is? I feel like some people, they know. And then there's some people where they go into confusion around it. Do you have any guidance around that? How to discover your why?
I've been doing meditation for many, 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 many years. I don't even know if I can survive without a meditation. And one way, and I have people that come to my house like 5 in the morning, 20, 30 people, and we meditate together. So I do the guided meditation as well. And I think through the guided meditation is where I got clear. Like my son was always my why. Even when I would say that may not be the struggling life, I would say my son had always been my why. But as I started doing more and more meditation, my why became even more stronger, not just for my son, but for the legacy that I want to leave behind, the purpose I was wanting to go after. Why am I even here? And again, spirituality, there's a big saying, I love that. And it says, and we're not going to talk about religion, but I love the saying. And it goes, where the religion ends, reality starts, where this religion and the spirituality starts, and where the spirituality ends, the reality starts. And I love that saying because that's when I came to realization is that why am I even here? There has to be a purpose. I've gone through the times where I was pronounced dead 7 times ever since from the age of born till the time I was 7. I was literally pronounced dead 5 to 6 times, and my mom did not give up on me. I had a car accident. I fell off from the roof. I was premature. Like so much had happened. I've
Wow.
shared that in my book. So deep down, I was like, come on, I have to be here for a reason. Like
Mhm.
God is keeping me safe. There has to be a reason, right? Meditation really changed the life for me because that's where you go to the movie. I personally don't go to the movie and say that, hey, here I am, show me this. I don't think anybody goes to the movie to say that. They always like, okay, here I am, let's entertain ourselves, right? And I think that's what the life is all about, and meditation, especially. So when I go to the meditation, I don't go with an agenda, I don't go with the answers. I actually go with the question. And all I say every time when I sit down to meditate, what do you want me to know? That's all I say when I go into the meditation. And whatever comes up is it just guiding me. Sometimes the old stuff comes up and I'm like, I haven't cleaned this dish yet. That's why. It's like picking up the carpet. So I
Yeah.
start taking one by one dish from the sink and start cleaning it so I can see the clean sink. And I think that's what the meditation does. So if you're not getting your why, that's because the groundwork has to happen. There's some layerings that you have done that needs to keep getting clean, needs getting clean. And slowly, slowly, if you practice this for even for a week or 2 weeks, 5 minutes, even if that's all you can spare, you'll start feeling that the universe is talking to you and your why is coming clearer and clearer and clearer.
I love that. And I love that you don't attempt to control the agenda in your meditation, right? It's like true letting go, asking the question, being open to what you receive. And so someone like me, like I'm not great at meditation. I quote unquote try it. I every once in a while I'll dabble or I'll do the 5 minutes or I tell myself I should on myself, I should do. There's this calling for me to meditate, yet I haven't developed the habit yet. What would you say to someone like me? Because I'm sure there's a lot of listeners where their intuition is guiding them towards that, to be in stillness and seek answers. What is something we can do to just even get started, like for the rookies out there with meditation?
I think I'm going to take it to back. Not the second thing we talked about is MonaVated. So motivate. If you had told me this about 15 to 20 years, by the way, I meditate every morning, 5 a.m. Like this has been my routine for 15 years because this is something that had changed my life. So if you had said this to me about 15 years ago that Mona, you're going to meditate, I'm going to be like, you kidding me? I'm a masculine person. You can put me down on the floor, like sit for 5 minutes. There's no way this is happening. But 15 years ago, I literally lost everything in my life. I was literally $5 in my pocket, didn't know what I was going to do. My son was in a private school and I was in the bathroom 3 o'clock in the morning crying and hoping that some miracle would happen that I'm not in this position. And my son was sleeping in another room. And the reason I was crying in the bathroom so he doesn't hear me. And something, I don't know what happened, something happened that it almost like someone whispered in my ear, meditate. And I kid you not, as soon as I heard that whisper, I started looking that if someone really said something to
Right.
me because it was so real, like it just felt that there was somebody there. But one thing I did know in that moment, somehow I was like, hey, nothing is working. So I have no choice but to surrender it. And if this works, at least there is maybe a rescue. And again, I was not looking for a rescue, but I think it was a rescue from the universe. So next morning I got up and I was like, I'm going to sit down and meditate. So for those that are having a dip, because now I run the meditation sessions for especially that ones that have a difficult time really understanding it. I would say only two things, honestly. One is to take 5 minutes. And if you can't do 5 minutes, I would say just start with 2 minutes.
Mhm.
Just 2 minutes and say, this is my time, close your eyes, and that's it. But I think where the most people have a struggle, they've been two things is either they have heard that you have to breathe certain way, and two, no thoughts. So I think that's where they're like, man, I'm getting so many thoughts. I must be doing something wrong. Think about it. As I was saying, when you meditate, there's going to be times. So when I do guided meditation, I tell them plain out in the beginning. When you're going to meditate, I'm going to do the guided meditation. Remember, the thoughts are going to come. Let them come. Let them go and bring it back. But let them come and make a mental note. The reason you're making mental note is because it's like really the universe, and universe is waiting for you to meditate. Honestly, the universe is waiting because it wants to work through you. But before that, the cleaning has to happen. So when you start meditating, even for 5 minutes and the thoughts are coming, I encourage you to let those thoughts come because you'll be surprised. Some of the thoughts will connect to you for things that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 4 days ago, 5 days ago. But universe is saying, you need to take care of this. You need to take care of this. You need to take care of this. And slowly, slowly, as you start taking and cleaning those things, that's where you're going to see the silence starts to come. And the minute the silence comes, then you're in a totally different kind of an addiction. Then you look forward to your quiet time.
Yeah. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking like how many people actually even know what it would be like to be in true silence with oneself.
For me, it's my, oh my God, it's a thought that it's a feeling I cannot explain. It's such a serene, no thoughts, nothing. And I look forward to it. It's literally an addiction for me now that I'm like, no thoughts.
Right? I've talked about it quite a bit on my podcast because I'm just coming out of being a workaholic and hustle culture and do. And I'm really gravitating towards these kind of conversations and practices and beliefs that the answers are in stillness to create abundance in my life. It doesn't necessarily mean do more. If you're sitting on the couch and not doing anything, that might relate to you, right? And like a lot of times it is about the stillness. And that's where so much is going to come. And even calming the nervous system down and decluttering our mind so that we can see what God, the universe, whatever your belief is wanting us to hear. And so I think that's great. I actually haven't had anybody on my podcast share that as a solution. So I love that. And okay, you're talking about finding your why, which is going to drive you to be able to get into action and focus on being extraordinary in your own life. How to do that, one way is to bring meditation into your life. And then, so what would you say to somebody if they're starting to gain clarity on their why, they're gaining clarity around the fact that no one's coming to rescue them. They've got to be in action and be taking control of their own life. And I think when you were sharing, what was cool is you're talking about your why being your son, yet then as you use that as your anchor, your vision grew around how that could relate to your purpose and how you spent your times and what passions you brought into your life. So talk about that. Like, how did you then get into real estate and how do you use your why to drive that? And what's your purpose within real estate?
So real estate, I've been doing it for 18 years. This is even before I would say the life took a dip. However, I think more than a real estate, it's more, why am I even doing not just a real estate? For me, honestly, you put me in any position and with God's grace, I'll do it. And I think that's because I start to get connected with the clients' why. Why are they doing it? Why do they need to sell? Why do they need to buy? And I think because my why is getting so clear and my why is coming from the place of a purpose, that I want to know my clients why now. And for example, like Strata Queens, we talked about Strata Queens 9 years ago. I went to the lawyers and I said, I want to trademark my company. And he said, what do you want to call it? I said, Strata Queens. And he looked at my face and he's Strata. I'm like, of course, it's going to be a thing in the future. And the reason is because I start looking at the economy and I'm like, these people want the feeling of a home ownership. But there's going to be times when the affordability would be such. And plus the young generation, I know my son doesn't want the front yard and backyards. He wants the easy living, just come into his room. Like if he could have a space where this is a living room, this is a kitchen, he can just turn around and just live the life in that circle, he would do it. Because one thing I found that the young generation really don't need much. They don't really need much. They want to enjoy the life. They're explorers when my son is in that generation. So 9 years ago, when I went to trade my company, Strata Queens, it was never about the Strata Queens. It was, where is he going to head? Like, I'm a visionary. And 9 years later, everything is getting built this way. Nothing is getting built this way anymore. So I think going back to the real estate and how I bring my whys, I love my kitchen table conversation. I just love them. 18 years in business, I don't have to do this. Even till this day, I door knock. And I never door knock and I never ask, hey, do you want to sell your house? Do you want to buy something? I'm always curious to know what's the story behind this door. And sometimes that story may lead to selling or buying, and sometimes it won't. I will just get to know the person and I make a friends with that. And I think that's where I'm marrying the two together is even in real estate, there's a reason why people do it. When I give the keys or when I take the keys to give the keys to somebody else, I get connected that how many dreams they have seen in that house. And now they're going to go and see into the new house. How many dreams they have seen for getting into the new house. So I connect through those. I actually incorporate with my clients when they're selling and buying is to write the list of things that they're looking for, why they're looking it for, how it's going to make their life easier. So I don't think so. For me, a real estate is a real estate transaction. I think it goes back to your inner extraordinary to ordinary moments, to inner motivation. Why are you doing this?
Absolutely. And I love your perspective, right? Because you're really making it about the person and their story and honoring that. And so, what is the value in building relationships in that way, especially in business? Because nowadays things are so fast paced. And I believe people have great intentions, yet a lot of time that can get lost in business, right? And so, what's the impact that you've seen in your own life within your business when you actually take the time to get to know people and know their stories? Why is that beneficial?
This is where I might get some emotional. My son has done 1 year real estate with me too. So I'm a single mom. I've been single mom for so many years. So I remember when he was ready to go to the university, he did about a year of university. And then he came up to me and he goes, Mom, I don't want you to put your money into my university right now. I need to get clear what I want to do. And it's not about just going to the university. So can I just take some time off from not going to the university, but shadow you in your business and see if I like it? I said, fair enough. So he did door knocking with me. He did open houses with me for 2 months, did all things like the grind and everything, the hustling that I do before he decided this is what he wanted to do. So after doing up 2 months, he said, yeah, I want to be in real estate. I'm like, okay, great. So he got his license, started doing real estate with me. And oh gosh, I think I was said that, oh, the theory. I was like, one thing I taught him when he was learning business from me, I reminded him and I said, always remember your lifestyle comes from our client. The car that I drive, the house I live in, the food I put on the table, it's because of my client's trust in me. Never take that lightly. So always make sure you're putting your client's interest first. And foremost, the most important part is that it's never about a sale. It's never about a commission. I know that's going to happen. That's part of the transaction. But what journey you went through to create that movement for them is the most important. So I think that's how I incorporate my why to my business. I never go and post about how many deals I have done, how many houses I have sold. There's some credentials I put every now and then, but not about the quantities that I have done, because I think that didn't matter for me. For me, it mattered that when I gave those keys, what was the story behind that key? What was the
Yeah.
story behind taking this key and giving it to this person? Like I connect to the stories. And I think that's where I'm incorporating my business why to my clients why. I don't even know what the question was, but I
Oh, I
think it
love
was
it. You
booked.
answered it perfectly. And I feel like that's a differentiator for you, Mona, because not everybody operates that way. And I can tell and I can feel it even in this interaction that it's genuine for you, that
Yeah.
each key that gets turned is a story that you have really cared about genuinely. And I also love your story about you and your son. And I tell people a lot of times one of the things you can do is one, it's really important, I believe, to have a mentor or somebody in your life that you can learn from. Yet the other thing is, if you're not sure what you want to do, go and shadow somebody, go and ask them questions, go and be curious. Because a lot of times, what we think we want to do, we actually don't want that lifestyle that comes with it or the work that comes with it. And so I think that's really amazing. You've obviously done a wonderful job raising him that he came to you and had that
Oh,
conversation.
he's literally my pillar. He's my pillar.
That's so awesome. And
Yeah.
so share about that. Just what do you feel is the importance, or do you think it's important to have a mentor or somebody that you can learn from?
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Mhm.
Because I love reading books. And again,
Yeah.
we'll talk about mentor too. And the reason I'm bringing up the books is because we're really expanding your thinking from other person's perspective.
Yeah.
And I think you stop learning, or I would stop learning if I said I know it all now. Even like right now, I've been reading, and I've read every book I read 2 to 3 times, and some books I
Mm.
read 5 times. It's not that I didn't get it first time or second time. It's because every time your mind has gone to a different level, and the things that my mind was not ready to hear or listen or read before is going to grasp that information. I mean, I've been reading this one. Like, I've lost so much in my life, so much, like literally everything, but for some reason, I think universe knew what things I would always need in my life. Imagine I have changed twice countries. I have changed the province. I lost everything to my ex-husband to the point where I literally had nothing. But somehow the only two things that always went with me forever since I came to Canada 31 years ago is my books and my memories, my pictures, because those are two most important part of my life. And I'm sorry, but I literally have literally nothing. And somehow, so when my things had bedside with my ex, he ended up keeping everything. I walked away from the house, everything, literally everything, $5 in my pocket, even to the point my mom's picture and everything. So I remember calling him one time and I said, all I want is my mom's picture. And I didn't get that either. So I left it to the universe. I'm like, that's okay. I don't know what happened 5, 6 months later. I was living in a basement at the time, coming from a 7 bedroom house overlooking ocean. I'm living in a basement now. One morning I got up and I opened the door and there was nothing in front of my front door, but just two boxes. And those were my books and my mom's picture and my son's pictures and my pictures from my young age and whatnot. And I was like, oh, that's a universe perfection, that ordinary to extraordinary now, right? Because universe knows that's all I need. That's all I
Yeah.
need. So going back to the mentor, going back to the coach, I've been coached by John Ashra, Bob Proctor, best of the best. But my son, I would say, is my mentor. I would say that my mom, even though she passed away many, many years ago, I was very young. Till this day, through my meditations, she's mentoring me. It's very important to have a mentor because there's times when you will have your filters. There's times when you would have your smoke screens, which you would not be able to see because your thinking will only take you so far.
Mhm.
You've gone that far. If you could go any beyond that, you would. But that's where the mentors will come into play. And there's gonna be time when even those mentors gonna be enough, then you're gonna need another one because now you got to their level and now you need the next level. So reading the books, having the mentors, I think those are definitely the key for your growth.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like you said, if everything got taken away from you, you can recreate it all again because you've done it before, right? And you're always going within, you're working on yourself, and it develops that belief and confidence that you can be resilient. Clearly, you've been resilient throughout your life.
Thank you.
You have.
I'm
And
resilient to my team now. So I do have a real estate team as well. And the
y-
whole reason I have that now is how do I pass what I know? How do I replicate it? Because here's the thing though, eventually there's going to be end to my life sometime. I don't know when. And I hadn't gone through the spiritual side of my life. I know nothing is same. It's always changing, ever evolving. So how do I pass what I know? So I've been teaching like Christmas Day, Christmas evening, the New Year Day, and New Year Eve, New Year Day, we were door knocking. And people were looking at our faces like, you guys are door knocking on a snow day, and it's like a
Mm.
Christmas day. And it was coming from the place of wishing people Christmas, but also teaching my team that you're getting curious to know the story. So now I have a team of 7 team members. I teach them still the same thing. Why to door knock? Why are we door knocking? Why are we making these relationships? So how do I replicate all that I know so that when I'm done with this or I'm gone, it just continues.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's part of you leaving your legacy. And we speak of mentorship. It's we look for mentors, yet also acknowledging ourselves that we are mentors for other people too. And I think that goes along with your whole theme of ordinary to extraordinary. So you might not think you're a mentor yet. If you have one person following you, you are, or it could be your children, right? It could be a friend who looks up to you, right? There's people who are always watching us and we don't know who we're inspiring and who we are that person's who are a mentor for somebody. And speaking of your team, I know that you're running, I think, boot camps to help your team and help other realtors have the mindset to believe that you could break the glass ceiling, right? For what we're each capable of. So speak to that. What would be you're doing it towards the realtors, yet what advice would you give entrepreneurs on how to constantly break your own glass ceiling?
It's funny though that you said that it's for doing it for realtors. If I was to say it, I think anybody can do it. The like anybody can come and do that boot camp because it's not for the real estate agents only, and it's for the only real estate agents. The most of what the boot camp focuses on, having doing this business for 18 years and going through the life ever since 19, I've been working. Everything, everything, any business comes down to mindset. No matter what, there's money on the table. There's always going to be the money on the table. I'll give you a short example. So I had a team meeting not very long ago, and I've been so busy. Like I'm really, really busy. There's days when I don't even have a time to eat and have a breathe. I'm like, oh my God, the clients and clients and clients. So I had a team meeting, and my team was saying, most of our clients are not picking up the phone. Like we door knock and they give their numbers. We get the numbers, but after that, we call them, they're not getting it. I said, okay, let's make a list of the people that are not taking your phone calls. And literally, they had 10 or 12 people that were not picking up their phones. And here I am, my clients that through door knocking that I met are calling me constantly to remind me that you remember me, right? You remember me. So I said, listen, it's a mindset. I said, because when I'm getting the number, it's not even going through me that my clients are not even picking up the phone because it's known. People want to talk to me, and it's not even a question, right? So it depends what the self-talk you're doing to yourself. So we talked about it. I gave them a little bit of a tips that how to change their mindset and everything. And in fact, I can even read the message. So they went through this and they left. And then within an hour, I get a message. Thank you, Strata Queen, so much for that prep talk. Our clients, 2 of our clients called us back that were not calling us back for 1 week now. And I think that's what it is that the boot camp, if I was to tell, it's more of a mindset work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
There are people who are waiting to do business with you. There are, but I think it's the mindset that's going to stop that, oh, this person is not picking up my phone. And then right away, it leads with another thing. Nobody's picking up my phone. Well, the universe will be like, yeah, you're right. Let me go
Yeah.
and find more people for you that are going to pick up your call, right? Because the universe has to prove you right. Now, the question is, what do you want to be right about? People picking up your phone or people not picking up your phone? So my boot camp actually focuses on more on a mindset, but for real estate. So my boot camp is not that where I'm going to tell them what to do. I'm going to share what they can do, and then they leave the room and they have to go and get the results. For example, one of my exercises in my boot camp was I got everyone to leave their wallets back, purses, wallets back. They have to go empty handed on the street, and they have to go and enroll 3 people to give them $5.
I love
When they
it.
came back, it was like, okay, if you didn't come back with $5, so help me understand. If somebody could not even give you $5, why would they give you $1 million, $500,000 listing?
Mm.
So that's a mindset we're working with. If I can enroll you in for $5, of course I can enroll you in for $5 million listing too. But it's again going to be a mindset. What are you saying? How are you saying it? What are you feeling? What were you thinking when you were asking? Were you judging yourself? Were you judging them? Like all those things that you're going through is what's creating your reality.
Oh my gosh, those are such great examples. And you can just take what you just shared and apply it and relate it to all of our goals and all of the steps that are necessary for us to get there. And it always does come back to mindset. And so just a few more questions, Mona. Speaking of mindset, let's use that to segue into just your book because it's called MonaVated and it's all about how inner motivation drives us. So what would you say are a few things from your book or a few pieces of advice that you can give entrepreneurs and goal? Oh, there it is. Perfect. MonaVated. I love it. Journey of an what does it say? Journey of an Indo-Canadian woman. I love that. So yeah, so share a few pieces of wisdom from your book towards people who want to live their best life.
I think, let me just, first of all, foremost, this book is dedicated to my mom.
Amazing.
Mostly there's chapters, there's different chapters. There's a chapter for my son and there's chapter for my sisters and there's chapter for when people used to call me ugly as I was growing up because of my dark complexion and everything. So the chapters about quite a like lot of other stuff, the business, relationships and whatnot. But I think every chapter ends with one thing only, and that's how I found my motivated movement. Meaning that when somebody called me ugly and whatnot, what did I do to switch that around? What kind of experience I had? And then the inner motivation had to come is that, no, I need to shift this. So that was my motivated movement. So it's funny though. One time my son wanted to go hiking with his friends and it was a Sunday. He was still in a school. And one of his friends called and said, okay, so, we're going hiking. I'm going to come and pick you up on the day, like in the morning. And my son is, oh my God, I don't feel like going. And all his friends knows about my book. So he's, I don't feel like going. And the friend goes, you better get up. Otherwise, I'm going to come and motivate you.
Awesome. It's a tagline now amongst everybody.
It's a tagline now that you better do this or I'm going to motivate you. But it talks about that how the inner motivation has to come through. But I think more than that, Kelley, you have to recognize and you also have to be wanting it too. I mean, I can say still the inner motivation. And yes, I had my motivation. But again, I think it's going to come back to why. You want something so bad is when your why is clear. And why doesn't necessarily have to be like, I'm lucky enough it was my son. But I tell my son all the time that if you were not the responsibility that I had on me, let's just, for whatever reason, I may not have been serious with everything that I've done because I don't know. I think because I had that responsibility, I was committed to make things work because I remember going to a transition home when I left everything and all power to the ladies that stay there. To be very honest, I don't know how they do it, but I remember going there, looking there, and I was like, there's no way in the world I'm putting my son here because again, I'm about a mindset. So I was like, if I put this person here, my kid here, I don't know what kind of a mindset he would develop. So I felt for those ladies, like, how are they keeping up with this? But I was not wanting to be one of those. So that was again a switch that I had to do, the motivated movement that I had to find in within me that this is not what I want. This is what I want. So I think that's what the book is really dedicated to. It talks about law of attraction as well. I'm very big on words. I'm very big on that what we think about is what we become about. I tell my son all the time that be very conscious of what you say because what you say, you don't even know subconsciously. It's sitting somewhere. Don't be surprised when it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to read your book. I have not read it yet. I'm going to get it. And I would be curious to know, you've been through a journey and you are where you're at now. What would you say is your version of success today?
I think I'm content, and I think and I'm not saying content with anything else. It's funny. Today, only this morning, I went to North Vancouver to see my clients, and my clients are going through no different journey than me. That where she's selling everything slowly, and because she's planning to move to India and she wants to retire there. And this morning, we were talking about it, and having gone through what I have gone through, and losing everything, and it all coming back again. I don't get attached to the materialistic world anymore. And I think for me, that success is really that where where you're at right now. And it's not about the money where you're at right now, you're just success. For me, if I look at my son, that's a success. If I look at my life, that's a success. And I'm a person that when we were talking about meditation and you said that how to do it, I think it's how you really practice is it. Like when I'm cooking, I'm meditating, but this is how you meditate. You pick up that onion, you just picked up that onion. You peel that onion, you just peel that onion. Like in that moment, you're just feeling and being present in that moment is a meditation, like not having anything. But half of the time, we're picking up the onion, we're cutting the onion, we're making all the stuff, we are doing the vegetables, whatever we are doing, we're cleaning the dishes. Half of the time, we're thinking something. But for me, that success, if I was to put the success, is that when I pick up that cup, I put a soap in it, I took a sponge and I clean it. I'm like, I can feel it because I'm in that moment. I have no place to get to. I have no place that I left behind that I'm thinking about or someplace I need to get to. And I feel that's what the success is for me, being content where I am at. There's no rush to get anywhere. And legacy that I want to leave behind comes from the place of not success, but comes from the place of what difference did I make? Did I just learn the stuff and kept to myself, or am I willing to pass it on to others now?
Wow, you're sharing so much great information, Mona. And I love that success for you is being content with where you're at and being present.
Yeah.
So one more question, which is just what is one more thing that you would love to share with the listeners, something that they could practice or implement or focus on this week? So what's one thing that comes to mind?
We're talking about success, we're talking about business, we're talking about me, but I think I'm going to bring back to my son. And there's a reason why. If there's any parents listening to this, if any parents are listening to this, connect with your child, connect with your children, connect with your daughter or son, and they will surprise you. They will surprise you. When I go through some stuff, and this is when my son was growing up, he stays at the UBC, so he's at campus now. There was times when I would go to my son and ask him when I'm stuck because the universe is guiding some answers through them. I remember when my son was very, very young, I used to read him a book. I think at about age 4 or 5, I used to read him the book called The Chicken Soup for the Kids. But
Okay.
by the time he could read, you know how you read the book to your kids when they go to bed? But by the time he could read, I started having him read me a book. So he would read a chapter of The Chicken Soup for the Kids, because it talks about trust. It talks about all of that. But there's one question I used to ask him all the time when I was putting him into the bed. And that was a very, very risky question to ask. And I used to ask him, how can I be a better mom? And it's not that I was putting any judgments on me that I'm not a better mom, but I think it's coming from the place of is oftentimes we think we're doing the best for our kids, which we are, but sometimes we need to ask them what is better for them. What do they want from us? What does it look like for them? So I think having a relationship with your children is very, very important, because sometimes they will make your why stronger too. And I think that's what my son did for me, is that when the more a conversation I started to have him with a young age is when I realized that for this kid's bright future, I better shine myself. And I think
Oh,
that's where
gosh.
my why came together.
I love that. And I love that as a parent, right? That you're learning from him and you're open to that idea. And he is your why. Yet in the process of that, you are constantly becoming a better version of yourself, which is the win for you. And that's so cool. And I love that. Mona, where can people find you? Because the listeners I know are going to want to learn more. They're going to want to get your book. They're going to want you as their realtor after hearing how much you truly care about them. So
Aw.
where can people find you?
So on Instagram, they can find me at Strata Queens. Instagram, all across the board, all social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere, Strata Queens. And then I also have a MonaVated Instagram as well. And my book is MonaVated on Amazon.
Awesome. And I'll put all that in the show notes and the resources so people can find you easily. And then just last question is what's next for you? What do you have coming down the pipeline?
MonaVated. MonaVated had to take a back seat for a little while because, of course, my son was still getting on to his university, and now I'm an empty nest. I have a small toy poodle. That's my companion. I think I'm going to marry him. He's a cutie. I honestly can sometimes doze off in his thoughts. So what's next for me is MonaVated. Now it's the time where I want to travel around the world and share my message, talk about it, especially with the parents having a good relationship with their kids, and also the women that may have gone through divorce, is not to give up on their life. We have heard it many times, man is not the plan. And I'm going to say it again, man is not the plan. Even if you're married, you're in a relationship, great, but know your finances, because I'll be honest, I didn't, even being a single, like a strong, independent woman from so many years, I didn't. So that could be my message too. So MonaVated is gonna be the forefront. Now that I
I
have a
love
real estate team, I can lean on
Yeah.
them.
Congratulations on where you're at. And the truth is, you're walking the walk, not just talking the talk. So I'm excited for people to learn from you and for you to go and enjoy this next chapter of your life. And Mona, just thank you so much for your time and for being here today. I
Oh my
appreciate you.
God. Thank you so much, Kelley. It means a lot. Thank you for giving this platform to talk about this.
Absolutely.
That was awesome having Mona on talking about being motivated. I love that. I like to call it being internally inspired. And she really talks about just it's always an inside job to get to the next level of any area in our life, right? It's important to look within, and that's where you're going to find all your answers. And so, really great conversation with Mona. Loved that. If you're in the Vancouver area, look for her as your realtor. She's rocking it. I love following her on social media. She's putting in tons of effort, tons of content, and she's doing it, as you can tell, from the right place. And so just thanks for being on, Mona. And to all of you, thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the episodes, don't forget to like, comment, download, subscribe, leave a review, all that good stuff. So appreciate you. Have an awesome day. And once again, with love, greatness, and success, it's Kelley Beveridge.